G'day guys, welcome to another video. In this video we will be talking about DeFi applications and the adoption of DeFi into the masses of everyone in the crypto industry. Joining me today is Glasgow. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So just to kick things off, first question, for those who may not be aware, can you in general describe what decentralized finance is?
Yeah, so DeFi is just the concept of kind of abstracting away from TradeFi, centralized intermediaries, so we don't have people in the middle controlling the DeFi, the finance. So we can create these contracts on the blockchain and have it completely self-sovereign, self-governing, and you can just interact with the blockchain directly. There's nobody that can interject their corruption into this system, and it's just a generally a more robust way to transact. Once you get a kink signed out, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's important that you just mentioned there as well is you're taking that sort of intermediary out of the sort of equation in regards to sort of the monetary lending policies and things. We've seen some sort of interesting sort of concepts in regards to the TradFi sort of scene in regards to manipulation of data and corruption, insider trading and things. So I think it's good to have that clarity in regards to decentralized finance.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it'll be a vital thing going forward to try and improve these systems that we're currently using.
Yep, most definitely. So to sort of start kicking off one's journey into the DeFi realm, what's from a usability standpoint, what's required to sort of interact with a decentralized financial application?
Well, you'd need some tokens, some base currency, in order to pay a protocol fee. But even in Ergo, we have the ability to create custom tokens, pay fees with custom tokens, similar to Babel fees in Cardano. So that eliminates kind of one of the issues people have because they transfer in, try and use DEX, and then they realize they don't have any Erg for the protocol fee. So to use a DeFi application, it kind of depends on which one at the moment. So we've got Nautilus that integrates the DApp connector as well as Safe Wallet and Minotaur maybe. Then we've got Ergo Pay, which is an alternative way to interact with DeFi, and that is supported on the auction house, and I believe Ergo Dex is integrating it right now. So you'd need a wallet to start with that has one of these, either Ergo Pay or the DApp connector support that allows you to inject some code inside a transaction, which is a bit more complex than what a normal wallet can do. And then it kind of depends what app you're using. If you're using auction house, you can buy an NFT, you'll get an NFT back in your wallet, you can go view it, and or go resell it on Sky Harbor. And I think that's about it. You just kind of need a wallet, some coins, and some basic knowledge of how these kind of programs work.
Yeah, the cool thing about the DApp connectors, like you mentioned, they do inject some code into the website. So you might notice when you're sort of first interacting that you might get a warning saying that the website's being changed just because of the signing transactions into the DApp connector itself. You did mention there's a couple of different styles of sort of DeFi. You did touch on sort of the auction house, but then there's decentralized exchanges. But then also there's collateralized lending, uncollateralized lending. There's sort of many aspects in regards to DeFi.
Yeah, definitely. There's loads of things possible, many still undiscovered, as Christian likes to say. And I'm sure we'll find out more in the next few years. But yeah, that's all you need really. It's just a wallet and some basic knowledge to get started.
Yep. So we've got the sort of infrastructure that we actually need, but what should someone sort of getting into DeFi ask around the assumption side of things? So obviously it's a new realm to many people. So what sort of questions should people be asking sort of before and sort of during and even after sort of interacting with a DeFi application?
Well, many people that that have interacted with ErgoDex will have noticed they've got a know your assumptions prompt when you first enter the site. So that tells you just to basically check what you're assuming about this application. Why is it safe? You should be asking questions. How long has it been active? Do I trust people behind it? How much do I understand it? How much do people that have a background in this stuff understand it and agree with it? So you basically to evaluate your assumptions and see where your weak points are. We are working to formalise this a bit more for Ergo. I think Kushti started a know your assumptions repository a few days ago to kind of make this clearer and make give people a chance to go back and check their assumptions and see what they're missing and realise the risks they're taking, because even though like Ergo had a fair start, you can see that the devs are doing what they say, they're trying their best, but there's always going to be bugs, there's always going to be flaws that will come up, especially when we're so early. People need to be aware of assumptions here and what risks they're taking. Because even eUTXO is a lot more resilient to bugs because of the functional design and programming, but not immune from bugs, certainly, especially in the early stages when the new classes of bugs that will be discovered in eUTXO and common mistakes that could be made.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept because people sort of take for granted the centralized sort of entities, say a banking sort of system where they just have a general idea that the bank's sort of looking after them and they have their best interests at heart as a sort of general rule. In decentralized finance, you have to ask all these questions. So some things that I ask or sort of look for is the project open source, or are the developers reputable, whether they're anonymous or they've actually sort of doxed themselves. I think it's really important to be able to know what you're working with and who you're interacting with as well.
Yeah, definitely. Open source is key, it's pivotal. But even if it's open source, you also need people that can understand the source, checking it and making sure it's okay. And when it's open source, it doesn't mean there won't be bugs by accident, even the ones that audits might miss. But yeah, that will improve as we go on. There's been ideas for like an audit DAO, so community members could get paid off projects to audit their DeFi applications, and that would give users in the ecosystem another kind of layer of security, and having these people check it and give it some sort of certification. But yeah, there's loads of things like that possible, but still early stages, I'm saying, so it'll take a while to build these kind of things up.
Yeah. Also sort of instill some confidence or a layer of confidence for the sort of everyday user if they have a little sort of check mark there, if say, like you said, an audit DAO or something, some sort of entity does sort of look over this information.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's definitely needed, and one of the easier ways we can help make this a bit easier for users.
Yeah, most definitely. So Ergo was obviously sort of created for contractual money. I think that's sort of one of the main taglines. What sort of unique features does Ergo bring to the industry sort of to enhance DeFi?
Well, it brings quite a lot of things, which makes it quite hard to sell it to people while explaining all these things. I think the most kind of obvious one is Sigma protocols, which enable privacy on the application level. So it kind of combines the features you get in Monero, but you can build this into applications rather than the protocol. So the privacy is optional. And there'll be many use cases still to be discovered here as well. At the moment, we've got Ergo Mixer, which is the only token mixer in the space, as far as I know. So this means we can mix native tokens, we can mix Anita or Ergo Pad or wrap Bitcoin in future, or any other assets we bridge. And this is completely non-custodial and non-interactive. So it means nobody's handling your funds. You don't need to interact with anybody else. You just send your money to a smart contract on the blockchain, and it will process it, send it back to you.
That's one of the most important things as well, not being or being non-custodial as well, because you always have control of your keys.
Yeah, that's the optimal. That's what you need. That's what most DeFi should be eventually. It's just a lot harder to do that but we'll get there eventually. One of the ideas to use Signal protocols is in a trustless local exchange trading system. So you can put that kind of privacy in the smart contract, and you can have a committee managing it. You could run it without a committee managing it, as is usual.
So you mentioned earlier that eUTXO as well is sort of one of the unique features in regards to sort of Ergo and Cardano, the only two chains, to my knowledge, that's using an eUTXO model. How does that sort of enhance DeFi on Ergo?
Well, it makes DeFi a lot more primitive, is maybe a way to explain it. So coding in Ergo is a lot more kind of accessing registers. You're doing things more kind of on a base level, which I think is a lot superior for blockchain technology. So you can do these, so everything in Ergo is an unspent transaction output. So there's various conditions you can use to spend boxes or contracts. But this it's a lot more lightweight on the chain, so we can do all the heavy lifting off chain, validate on chain, and it's just a lot more efficient for a blockchain technology where we've got these miners using a lot of electricity. We want to kind of offload as much of that as possible.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept that you just mentioned as well, that sort of the eUTXO sort of model handles a lot of the stuff is sort of computed off chain. So, and then the contract or the transaction itself is verified on chain. So, offers a bit more sort of scalability to the whole DeFi world as well.
Yeah, you can do like a full tree of transactions outside the chain, and then just on the chain you just have a little hash representing that, so you can check, which removes a lot of the kind of effort required.
So you did mention earlier, or just previously, the local exchange trading system. I think that's a sort of novel concept that is able to be sort of utilized on the Ergo blockchain. Can you explain what a LET system is and sort of the mechanics behind a LET system?
Yeah, so a local exchange trading system is basically a barter system that's based on local currency. So you can barter for, instead of bartering for goods, it's more likely to be services. So you could offer up a job for a certain amount of points. Somebody would do it and get those points, and then in turn they could hire somebody else to do a different job for them. So the most kind of tangible examples of this is stuff like running it in small groups, like say a family household, just to keep track of points of chores, or you could do it in your friend group, and it just kind of expands from there. So it could be, it doesn't have to be local as in localized in the real world. It could be localized online somewhere to a specific niche, and these would kind of expand out and kind of break off into their own LET systems eventually, and then you interact with them, and there could be full different alternative economies operating outside the velocity of money in a normal monetary system.
Yeah, so you're trading your skills or experience, not for a monetary return, but for a favor, or for monetary value, for anything really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a way to kind of remove the money from that system and kind of let people trade their services, because you'll find people, maybe they can't afford a thing, but they can offer their services and then get these points, then buy things with that. So it gives people advantages that weren't there previously. And also, I think will be a pivotal thing going forward, when we can create kind of local sustainable economies instead of requiring global ones, which may seem efficient now, but are inefficient in other ways.
Yes, the thing that I like about the whole LET system is it can be sort of as small as a household, like you mentioned, but then it could be something that's global as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think the name kind of gives way for local. So there was people that have tried to make it GETS, which would just be like one huge local exchange trading system that's global. But I think the kind of LET systems, we'd just have lots of small ones together, kind of interacting with each other, is more feasible in the long run.
Yep. So what makes like a let system being able to sort of run on Ergo? You don't really sort of hear other chains sort of being able to implement this sort of thing. So what makes that sort of feasible with Ergo?
Well, it's got a sophisticated smart contract language that makes it possible. I think Ripple has done a lets, but nowhere else it's possible to do a trustless lets, which is thanks to Sigma protocols. So that's where we can get rid of the centralized committee, which lets people enter into the lets, and instead of just have that managed by a smart contract. But yeah, I think it's just the advanced kind of Ergo script language that makes it possible.
Yeah, I think that that word you mentioned there is key. Trustless. I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you want to have these systems be robust and last a long time. You want them to be trustless as possible.
Yep, most definitely. So DeFi itself has had quite a turbulent year, one would say. What do you think is required from the DeFi industry or the people building these DeFi protocols to garner some more sort of mainstream adoption and sort of instill some confidence into the end user?
I think there's still probably quite a lot of work to be done. We have come great strides in the past few years. I think at the moment, last year DeFi was something like 1% of the total market cap of banks. So it's still a huge amount, but there's still some huge gaps as well. I think the main ones are probably usability and on-ramps. So I think things like DEXs need to be kind of self-explanatory. People can just open it up and not have to kind of figure out what they're doing too much. At the moment, they're kind of aimed at crypto insiders. So people that might have a finance or software development background who want to go in and play with these kind of new kind of exotic DeFi protocols and experiment with them. So in future, I think we'll kind of have things with stable APIs, maybe not 20%, maybe you might get 4% or something, or higher if you had some robust systems with lending that can improve themselves over time. But I think as soon as you kind of get that, you have people flooding into it. We've seen like what happened with Luna, even though it was unsustainable, that kind of API with a stable coin, so it's kind of low risk, and will just bring a huge amount of influx of people in. On top of that, usable DeFi will be a big thing. I think a lot of people now, they probably just come in, they try ETH, see a $100 gas fee transaction, and just go to browser and don't use it. That's certainly one of the things I've done. So we need more chains like Ergo, bringing down this fee for everybody with cross-chain stuff, and just making everything more usable in general.
Yeah, I think one thing we need to do is sort of just iron out the kinks and some bugs and just instill the confidence into the end user, because you see some hacks and bits and pieces sort of going on in the industry. And I think this needs to mature a lot in regards to sort of the development and the assumptions that the developers are actually sort of working towards as well. But you've also often seen as well in regards to sort of this latest turbulence, there's sort of more centralized protocols which people are sort of put under that DeFi umbrella, but often they're not DeFi, they're quite centralized. So having control of your keys, and then obviously if you do interact with a lending protocol that is completely 100% decentralized, you see the stability in that because it's just operating as the code should.
Yeah, they'll kind of prove themselves over time and become more robust. At the moment, most of it is TradeFi. You've got kind of centralized parties managing most of this risk, and even if it's working now, they could just be backing it up, propping up with reserves, or have venture capitalists propping it up who could abandon the project at any moment if it's not profitable for them anymore. So we need kind of trustless, decentralized tools that can stand the test of time, and they'll kind of build up on the chain, and they'll get more robust as more people use them. And then once you've had a few years, people get some stable API, you'll have people flooding into that, trying to take advantage of it, and the system will just kind of grow exponentially, even more so than it is already.
Yeah, most definitely. So from a DeFi standpoint on Ergo, what sort of protocols would you like to see running on Ergo?
Well, I'm excited for a lot of what's coming up. like Ergo. I think that would be very interesting to see what kind of things get funded on there. And if we can start funding some big things. But there's lots of stuff else. So there's derivatives. We can get into. So there's kind of more exotic DeFi protocols, but I think there'll kind of be a big pool for people that have a finance background or maybe software development. So they'll go in there and start making up these new creative protocols, which will span new protocols, and we'll see kind of these mature over the next few years. I think stablecoins is the one I'm probably most excited for, because stablecoins is such a pivotal part of DeFi, and there's no one that really does it well yet. So Sigma USD is really good, but there are some problems on the reserve side. There's working on DEXA USD, and there's proposals in the form for some other stablecoins which have even less sexy API, but would be much more robust going forward if we could get them kind of built up, get them past that initial stage. But I think once we start seeing stablecoins, robust decentralized stablecoins appear, we'll start seeing the DeFi space take a big jump forward as people can put trust in these kind of core blocks of DeFi.
Yeah, most definitely. I think one thing that I'm really looking forward to myself is Ergo Lend or EXO taking off. I really like the concept of the uncollateralized loan and sort of giving someone a hand who may not have anything to start with as well, and providing that sort of human connection and a bit of trust there as well. I think that's sort of overlooked in a lot of industry at the moment. But also in saying that, having a larger also collateralized sort of protocol as well, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think lending's definitely a big one that appeals to people. And once we get those things running, I think they'll kind of start giving back a stable API, because there's a lot of people out there that are looking for those, and just the banks aren't cooperating. So I think society can do a lot better when we've got these kind of trusted systems we can build upon.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept there as well, is because also if you want to provide liquidity in there, you can farm yield and other sort of concepts, and that's sort of unique to DeFi as well, where you're taking that middle intermediary as well.
Yeah. I think NITO is another good example here.
Yeah.
Because gambling is huge here, and if we could build these kind of systems more fair than what they are currently, and maybe prey on people's addictions a bit less, I think that'd be a positive thing. Especially, I think NITO is offering a way to kind of, so that people, you are the casino. So I think that'd be a big kind of draw to people who are currently gambling and losing a lot because they're dealing with these kind of centralized parties. But yeah, I think that'd be a big pull this year, I think.
Yeah, it's exciting, the industry as a whole, but then also the unique features that can be built out on Ergo. Is there anything you sort of, any last comments you wish to sort of mention in regards to sort of the DeFi and the usability in the industry, but then also anything more unique to Ergo?
I think I have to touch on DAOs, so decentralized autonomous organizations. It's probably one of my favorites as well. It's quite hard to get right. There's quite a few suites on ETH at the moment, but it sounds like they're having trouble getting them to function properly. So I'm sure they've got a lot of that to look forward to. But there'll be a big thing because you can just create a DAO for anything, really. So things like, there was a co-living DAO hackathon entry, which is something I've worked with for a while after dealing with factors in my building and have paid them lots and lots of money to do very, very little. Especially when I know most of my neighbours, you've got group chats, and we could organise it if we had a tool that was a bit more built up. So I think that's a powerful tool to give power back to the people, and let them start organising in this way. They can bring money in and create their own organisations without many barriers.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept. DAOs are another sort of unique sort of thing that's made possible by the decentralized nature of blockchains as well. And you can manage anything really that you sort of want to put your mind to. So you can manage treasury funds or just simple sort of decision making in regards to, say, like the co-living DAO. There's anything that you can kind of put your mind to.
Yeah, definitely. That's something to look forward to.
Yeah, most definitely, mate. All right, guys. Well, thanks very much for tuning in for this chat with Glasgow and I in regards to the usability of DeFi. I hope it's been sort of insightful. Thanks, Glasgow. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, mate. Thanks, guys, and have a good one.